Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Khara with CreativePro, and today we are going to make mandalas. Have you ever tried it before? Let me know in the comments. And if you have played with them, how'd it go? What did you use it for? I would love to know. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Making mandalas. I'm going to show you how to set up your document and the tools and the different settings we're going to be using. Just any brush will work, pretty much. We'll get into that, and I'll talk about how we can customize the settings and work with them, and of course, ideas and inspiration for doing all of that. So let's see what's going on in the chat. I see a question from Marilyn, or maybe a comment. Marilyn says, I've played with them, but played is the operative word. Could never get them precise enough for me. Oh, okay. So Marilyn, I'm curious what you mean by precise how. So let me know in the comments, and maybe I can help you out there. I certainly hope that I can. All right, so let's take a look, shall we? I promise I'm going to be better today at making sure that we get back to the desktop when we need to. Sometimes when we go into the chat, it's easy to forget to come back to the desktop. But I'm burning it in up here, so we're going to make that happen. All right, so this is just an example of one of the mandalas I have made in the past. And, you can get as detailed and intricate as you want with these, or you can keep them super simple. And you know what? They make fabulous coloring pages for like adult coloring books, which is all the rage. So, and even if you want to color in real life, like print it out and color it in real life, or even just coloring it on your tablet or whatever is super fun. It's even just fun to do it right here in Photoshop. So let's talk about setting up with a new document. So we're going to start totally from scratch. So I'm going to press Command or Control N to make a new document. And of course, you can make this whatever size you want, but I'm going to keep it square just for simplicity's sake. So maybe I'll make my canvas a little bigger, maybe 8 by 8. And I've got 300 pixels per inch. So, this will work out. If we want to print it, we want to have that available. I'm going to be working in RGB mode with a white background, and we'll go ahead and click Create. So here we are. Now, before we do anything else, we want to work on a blank layer, right? That gives us the ultimate flexibility. If we want to edit our mandala, maybe we later go back and decide we don't like a piece and we want to change it. It's always great to be working on a blank layer. So at the bottom of the layers panel, I'm going to click to make a new blank layer. And we can see up here that this layer is just empty right now. So that's where we're going to be putting all of our paint. So we're going to be using Photoshop's symmetry tool, or setting, or feature, however you want to call it. And it works with the brush tool, and I guess the eraser, which is a brush, so to speak. But it does not work with the mixer brush or any of the other brush engine type of tools, right? So like the clone stamp and clone pattern stamp, all of those things are like brush-esque, but they don't work with this symmetry option. It really has to be the brush tool. That said, it would work with whatever brush you want to use. So you've got lots and lots of choices. Today, I don't know what brush I actually have right now. I've got a waxy crayon brush, but for those of you who don't know, if you've somehow never seen any of my anythings ever on brushes, I like to make use of Kyle Webster's brushes. So I'll show you what that looks like. But right now, the one that I'm using is actually a legacy brush from Photoshop. So it just comes with Photoshop. But I don't know that it might just be here. Oh, if you don't have your legacy brushes loaded, yeah, you do need to click on the little cogwheel. So I've pressed B for the brush tool. Come up here into your options bar, and you'll see a little brush preview here. For those of you who don't know, the number here refers to the current brush size in pixels. So this is not like brush number 10 or anything like that. Right now I've got a 10 pixel brush. So that's what that means. The little icon thing here is a little brush tip preview. So it kind of just helps you know what brush you currently have. But if you click on this, that will pop open our brush picker. And if you don't have a lot of brushes in here other than just this general collection, then you can load them by coming to the cogwheel. And if you click on that, there's this option here for legacy brushes. So that'll load this folder. And you can see that I have grabbed one of these in here. Somewhere is called Waxy Crayon. Here it is. So that's a legacy brush that just exists in Photoshop. If you are a Creative Cloud subscriber, then you can also click the little cogwheel and you can choose Get More Brushes, which will take you to a page on Adobe's website where you can download your choice of gazillion of different brush collections for free. And I have some of those here as well. So if we get to it later, I might be using a watercolor brush, and that is going to be from one of those brush packs on Adobe. So those are by Kyle T. Webster, and they're free for Creative Cloud subscribers. And you get to them from the cogwheel by choosing Get More Brushes. Once you download the file, it's a .abr file. If you download it and then you just double click on it, it should automatically load into Photoshop. If it doesn't, you can always come back to this menu and then just choose Import Brushes and navigate to the ABR file. Another great place to get free brushes that you can use, if you're trying to use them commercially, I would double check the usage rates, but there is a site called brusheezy.com. It's BRUSHEEZY, and they've got tons of free brushes that you can download and play with. So if you are new to brushes and you're not familiar with those, highly recommend you give it a whirl. So whichever brush that you're using, you just want to make sure that it is an actual brush. So some of Kyle's brushes, for example, like where might those be? So some of these, for example, you'll notice in my little brush picker here, these are some different brushes from Kyle. And the ones that have this little brush icon, those are brush brushes. These that have like a little smudgy finger, or the brush icon with the little drop, this one is a mixer brush, and this one is a smudge tool brush. So those will not work with the symmetry options. So just a heads up, if you grab one of those brushes and then you're like, where'd my symmetry options go? That's what's happening. So just make sure that whatever brush you're using, it should have this little picture next to it. All right, so enough about all of that. We can close this. Another thing to point out before we get into the symmetry is whichever brush you're using, if you are you're trying to draw a smooth line and your line looks like this, like jiggity, jaggedy, shaky, you can crank up some help from Photoshop called smoothing. So the smoothing option for whichever brush is going to be up here in the control panel. So you can see right now that my smoothing is set to 0, which means I'm not getting any help. So if I'm trying to draw like a little mandala petal or something, what is that? This is my shaky, recently caffeinated hand. It's just not great. So if you want some help with that, you can come up here and then crank up the smoothing setting. Now, just know that it can slow you down a little bit. So now if I'm drawing with it, oh, that actually looks pretty good. But sometimes, depending on your brush size too, and which brush you're using, if it's a really complicated brush, it might get a little bit laggy. So just know that. If you have chosen a brush and you don't see the option here for smoothing turned, it's not available to you, then that just means that you need to enable the smoothing option. Where do you do that? Well, if we come back up here to the control panel and you click this little folder icon, this is going to open your brush settings panel. And here you will see on the left, there is a little buffet of menu options, one of which is called smoothing. So if I uncheck next to smoothing, you'll see that now this is grayed out up here. So if you, whichever brush you have, if you want to be able to enable that smoothing help, you got to open your brush settings from this little folder icon here, or if you just have your brush settings panel open, which you can always find from the window menu under brush settings. Anyway, you got to come in and then just click to put a check mark next to smoothing, and then you'll be able to smooth out your brush stroke, right? Sound good so far? Oh, look at this. Let's pop into the chat and see what's going on, how everybody's doing. Oh, Nita is here. Hi, Nita. And it's nice to see you here. I see Nita all over the place online. She's always so supportive. Deborah is saying hello from Kearney, Nebraska. Well, welcome, Deborah. You are a neighbor, right? So I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Kearney is just down the road, just a little bit west of here. I see that Marilyn was saying earlier, she said she had trouble getting the precision that she wanted, and she's saying she was trying to make largish areas to fill with Zentangles. Ooh, that's super fun. You should be able to do that. So hopefully what we talk about today is going to help you out with that. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Look, this is me remembering to go back to my desktop. And my little shortcut key's not working. So it takes me a minute, but we're going to get there. Okay, so that is our brush setup, and we've got that working. Okay, so now we're on our new document. We have a blank layer. We have a brush tool brush. How do we make this symmetry stuff happen? Okay, are you ready? The magic is all up here where we see this little butterfly icon. So we are going to click on the butterfly icon, and that's going to pop open this menu. And you'll see we have a bunch of different options for the type of symmetry that we would like to enable. So just to keep things simple and show you kind of how these work, let's start by choosing vertical. So I'm going to click on vertical, and you'll notice that it puts this line on the screen and that it's got an active transform box around it. So I can rotate this line. I can choose where I want the axis of symmetry to be. So if you think of this line as like a mirror, whatever you do on one side of the line is going to be reflected across to the other side. So you can spin it around. You can also stretch it if you need to. So you might be feeling like you need to stretch it to make it reach the edges of the document. And you can if you want to, but you should also know you don't have to, because even though the line on the screen does not extend to the end of the document, the virtual mirror that is there, the actual symmetry line, does. So it's kind of not worth messing with it. But anyway, once you get it where you want it, you just press enter, and I'm going to make my brush a little bigger. And then if I draw a line over here, you see that it reflects it on the other side of the mirror. And that is true even if I go up here above where the line is or down here below, it is still going to reflect. Okay, so let me undo that. So now we have this active symmetry line. If we go back to the little butterfly, we can do several things. We can turn the symmetry off. So right up here, if I'm just like, all right, I'm done with the symmetry, turn it off, and now we're back to normal. We can also come back, and then if we're like, wait, I need it back again, we'll see that there's an option to re-enable the last used symmetry. So there it is again, and now we're back to whatever that is. That's great. And if we want to try something else, we can click on the little butterfly and we can just choose it. So let's see what happens if we do radial. This is a good comparison to the mandala. We can tell it how many segments we want. So I'm going to choose 4 and click OK. And now we see 4 radial settings. Now again, because we see this transformation like box around it, before we do anything, we need to commit it. So we can either press enter or return on the keyboard, or we can come up and click on the little check mark here. So now, if I brush in any one of these quadrants, I'm going to get radial symmetry, right? So you may wonder, like, what's the difference then between this and the mandala setting? And that would be a great question. So let's go back and choose mandala. And let's again tell it 4 and click OK. And then you're like, that looks the same. And it does look the same, but it doesn't behave the same. So I don't know why, but they don't show it this way. But when you choose the mandala setting, it looks like radial. So we chose 4 quadrants. But if I draw something over here, it is reflected an additional time within each quadrant. So it's kind of like having another mirror in each of these quadrants. So even though we said 4 quadrants, we're getting 8 lines. So if I draw 1 line, it's going to end up showing up 8 times. Does that make sense? It is kind of confusing. But that is the difference between radial and mandala symmetry. Okay. Another cool thing to know before we get into the actually drawing of all of this is where do all these symmetry lines actually live? Like, where are they in Photoshop? And the answer is they are in our paths panel. So if you don't have your paths panel open, you can find it by going to Window and choosing Paths. And then if we take a look over here, we see 3 different path layers, I guess, because we have used 3 different symmetries. So every time you choose a different symmetry, it is going to show up in your paths panel, right? So we started with the vertical symmetry. So that's showing up right here. Then we enabled a radial symmetry. And now finally we're using the mandala symmetry. And so we can go back and switch between them at any time, which is really cool. And then it's also important to note that the path or the symmetry option that is currently active has this little butterfly icon here. So if we want to go back to our vertical symmetry, we can right click on that path and then we can choose make symmetry path. Yeah. So we choose make symmetry path. Sorry, I thought it had the word active in there, but I was dreaming. So now this is the symmetry that is active, right? And of course we can disable it all from the little butterfly by just choosing symmetry off. So I can go now with no active symmetry. I can go back to the mandala symmetry path. And if I right click and choose make symmetry path, not only does it reactivate the symmetry, but it specifically reactivates the mandala symmetry. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to go back to the layers panel, but that is where this stuff lives. You'll also notice if you switch tools, like if I grab my move tool, okay, it still shows up because we're not painting, but if I grab, it's making a liar out of me. If I grab another tool, like the smudge tool here, it's going to say, hey, this is not supported with this tool. So if I click OK and I were to smudge something now, it's not going to work. Or if I grab the type tool and I try to type, the symmetry is not going to happen. Okay, so just so we know how that works. All right, but when I switch back to the brush tool, it is here and it's already active. Look how fun that is. I mean, I don't even know what that is. That was just me scribbling. It is so fun to do this. So let's talk about making the mandalas. Typically, obviously, there's no right or wrong. You can do whatever you want here. You can get wild and wacky with it, or you can try and make it really traditional. Totally up to you. But typically, we would start in the center. So I'm going to zoom in just so I can see a little better what I'm doing. And I might want to make my brush a little smaller. And typically, mandalas start from the center, right? And they go outwards in sort of a circular petal floral like way, but it doesn't have to be. So you can make whatever kind of mandala you want. But I'm going to start by just drawing an arc like I'm drawing a circle. And I only have to really draw like 1/8 of the circle because the rest will fill in. And then from there, we just kind of start looping outwards. So maybe I'll come up here and draw a little petal shape like that. And maybe let's keep it going. And there's no right or wrong. If you don't like it, you can just Command or Control Z and start again. So maybe maybe I'll just do this for the beginning. That's kind of a nice start, I think, right? So what I like to do typically is I'll just start drawing in these petals, and then when I get to a certain point, I'll go back and start adding details and things. So maybe from here, maybe I'm going to branch out and put like one of these and come up like this. And if I don't like this little kind of fangs I have going on there, I can just grab my eraser. What eraser brush is that? Anyway, you can just erase it, and the erasing will also happen symmetrically. You see that? So it shaved off that little bit that I didn't like. It shaved it off everywhere. So like if I'm looking at this and I don't like this, whatever it is you want to clean up or adjust or smooth out, you only have to do it in one place and it will happen everywhere. So that is pretty cool. All right, I'm going to switch back to my brush and let's see. Maybe I'll come from here and do like a big one like that. I don't really like it. There we go. So I'm just drawing shapes and I have put no forethought into this. So you may end up, undoing it and redoing a lot. Maybe you're the type of person that wants it to be exactly a precise kind of way. I'm just winging it because it's kind of hard to tell what it's going to look like until it blooms out on the page. So it's really fun. Like, it's also a great stress reliever because it just kind of concentrates your mind in a fun way. And plus, I mean, let's just say it is fun to sit here and just like do stuff like this and have it bloom out all over the screen. I just think that's fun. So let's try a different shape. Maybe like this. All right, so you can see it's kind of looking like a flower, which is essentially what we're going for. So now let's say we love this, even if maybe it's not my favorite I've ever made, but hey, that's okay because we're not done yet. So at this point, we can go in and maybe we want to start having some fun with this, right? So let's maybe make the brush smaller and we're going to put some detail in here. So maybe I'm going to put some little lines in here, like maybe a little, almost like a little plant. I'm going to put a little ball on the end and I may switch. Let me switch to like a more round brush. And yeah, I've got my smoothing up. All right, so I'm going to come in here and just put like, whoops. Let me redo this whole bit. Come up and out and then put a ball on it. That's kind of fun. And let's see, maybe we put some dots. So there's a lot of markings that are typical. If you like Meredith was saying, drawing the Zentangles and stuff, you draw lots of little lines, just mark making. If you Google mark making, You will find so many examples or just doodles, right? If you Google doodles, mark making, you'll find lots of ideas about the different types of marks that you might want to make if you feel like you need some inspiration. All right. These dots, yeah, I'm going to redo them because my brush flow was low, and so they were kind of looking gray instead of a nice rich black like I wanted. All right, so that looks pretty good. Let's darken this in. So I'm going to make like another little petal here, and maybe I'm going to draw little stripes around it. And here's a pro tip. Did you know that to draw straight lines in Photoshop, there's a little cheat that you can use, which is you click with your brush in the location where you want to start the line, and then move your cursor to where you want to end the line and hold the shift key and click again. So it's kind of like connect the dots. So I'm going to click here, move my cursor here, and then shift click. Click and shift click. Click and shift click. So it's very easy to get nice, clean, precise, straight lines. Okay, what else can we maybe do? Maybe I think I want to add another line here. So that's good. And maybe in here, I don't know, let's see about, maybe I'll just make another little shape like that. And if I want to fill in an area with black, I can just color it. You could use the paint bucket too, but it won't do the symmetry with the paint bucket. So if you want to paint with the paint bucket, you can, but then you have to do it 8 times. So I am just painting it. Now, I will say I am using my little, here, we can go back to I am using a tablet. It's not fancy. I don't have fancy things. It's the cheapest Wacom that there is, I think. I don't know. I bought it a long time ago. So it's just this little tablet. And that's all that I'm using. You don't have to do it, but I am on my laptop and I am really getting carpal tunnel type stuff from doing my trackpad in a weird position on my chair or my sofa or wherever I'm working. So when I'm doing this now in my office down here, I do like to use my pen, but you can get these for, I want to say they range in price for the cheapy ones from like $50 to maybe 100 something bucks, depending on if you want the wireless option or not. And yeah, so anyway, it is not a huge investment, but it does help. Okay, so here we are. And you just basically go from there. And, you know, like Meredith was saying with Zentangles, it's kind of like you just Zentangle your way through this now. So let's see, maybe we put in another little petal here. Maybe we have something like this. And oh, now I feel like I'm just being repetitive. Let's put in another little, let's put like a leaf, like that kind of a shape. Maybe we'll color this in. So you get the idea, right? So I'm not going to get too obsessive here because we'll be here all day. And I want to make sure I give you some fun ideas about how you can really like have some fun with this. Maybe I'm going to put in some, let's do some scallops like this way maybe. So maybe you want to make a mandala that's got all the same types of, you know, lines. Maybe everything in it is really straight edge. Oh, that looks terrible. What am I doing? Let's do this again. All right, so maybe something like this. And maybe I'm going to come in here and colorize every other for these ones, these little sections that we did. I mean, you just do you, right? Like you just fill it in and you play with it. And if you don't like it, you can change it or redo it. But look, I mean, look at that. It actually, when I zoom out, it actually doesn't look bad. Interesting. So maybe for this next bit, what could we do? I feel like I want to have some like, no, I hate that. I don't know. It does get a little, it's like tricky sometimes. You're like, what am I going to do next to fill in all this space? And the answer is, who knows? I'm just making it up. But you can have fun with it. And I'm going to fix this line here, is kind of weird. And then I'm going to make my brush bigger and paint this in. Because one of the things I also like to do is really use white as like an actual piece of the mandala. So let's do something like this. And I don't know. You see how this becomes meditative? You can really get lost in this, which is kind of fun. There we go. All right. And then maybe in here we could do like some more dots. Maybe, oh, I know. Let's do like little tick marks. So, and we can play the connect the dots game. Or I'm going to actually just freehand them. I don't know why, because I want that look, I guess. I might regret it later, but that's why we have Control or Command Z, right? All right. So I want to keep it moving here. Let's draw another line like this. And some more dots. I have no idea how this is looking. Let's zoom out. Not terrible. Okay. So you get the idea. I'm just looking at the chat. Alexander says, basically, thanks for pointing out about the stuff living in the paths panel. Yeah, right? Like who would have, I mean, known that, right? These are the things that are so helpful to be able to figure out. So glad I could help, Alexander. So if you draw like a lot of faces, maybe you like to make cartoony type stuff or portraits or anything like that, you can set up the symmetry lines wherever it is that you need them to be to make it really easy to draw characters and all kinds of stuff, which would hopefully... Erin Rodriguez is here. Hi, Erin. I know Erin in real life. Erin would never tell you, but she is a gifted vocalist. And I met her doing a show, I think. I don't know. Is that right, Erin? at the local community theater. She is an amazing vocalist. And now every time I hear that song, which I can't think of the name of right now, but I always think of you, Erin. Isn't it fun? Like the creative community is just so brilliant and so creative. What should we do here? I don't know. What is this? I don't know, but I'm going to keep it. Aw, Erin, so sweet. All right. So I'm just trying to like hurry up and get this done because now I'm getting too obsessed with it. But I want to show you guys some other things. And it's really quick to make mandalas if you're not really being particular about it. You can just doodle and scribble and do something. But now I'm I'm making this slow. But here we go. So now I'm going to paint with white, and I'm just going to draw whatever this is, a little flower. That looks like a bug. You see, people think like, oh, life will just be perfect when you have the little tablet. It doesn't make you, it doesn't make your art look any better. It just makes it maybe a little faster. I don't know. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. Let's see, what can we do here? I would just draw some of these. Should we go this way now? Is that weird? I feel like that's weird, but oh well. And now I'm going to put like a little doodly bop. Like that's awful. A little kind of petal shape thing. That doesn't look great either, but that's okay. Oh, it's not too bad, actually. I kind of like it. Deborah says I'm the Bob Ross of mandalas. That's really an insult to Bob Ross, but thanks. Thanks, Deborah. Okay, so we'll pretend that this is great, right? It's a happy little mandala. And let's now talk about how we can color this in or paint it or do whatever, right? And you could just leave it. And like I've done over here in this example, I did not go and color it in. I just, so like here's the mandala by itself. And then I just added different backgrounds and I did some brush work on top of it. I have this layer I think is blank. So I have some brushwork here. And then this layer is just another layer that I painted on. So if we isolate this layer and unclip it, I guess, you can see it's just like a mess of paint. But basically, then I clipped this layer, meaning that it now only appears on top of the mandala line work. So if we zoom in, you can see that it painted, it's like, instead of just black, we have like the brushwork now. So that is another option for how you can add color while you are not actually like coloring in your mandala. But maybe you want to. So let me show you all of the ways. Okay, but wait, this is really bugging me. What is happening here? Somehow, okay, that feels a little better. I do not like, ew, I'm making it worse, you guys. There, let's round that out. I don't know what's happening. Okay. Not my favorite mandala, but not terrible. Okay. Let's talk about how we can have some fun and add some color and flavor and style and all of that to this. So if we want to paint this in, there's, of course, many ways in Photoshop that you can paint stuff. But let's just say we want to just straight up color this in. What I think is the best, most flexible way to do that is to add a new layer behind our mandala layer. So I'm going to do that by holding down Option or Alt and clicking the New Layer button. Oops, I'm holding the wrong key. What am I doing? No, Command, not Option or Alt, Command or Control, sorry. Command or Control, and that will put the new layer behind your active layer. If you don't do that, then that's fine too, but the new layer will then appear on top and you'll have to drag it down below. So not the end of the world, but still. Okay, where are my swatches? I don't have them open. So I'm gonna open my swatches panel by choosing Window, Swatches, and let's dock this baby. Do you guys ever feel like your panels just move on you? I must have closed this at some point. I don't know why, but let's get over here and I'm going to just grab this blue color, whatever this is, and I'm working on this blank layer here. And now I can come in and just paint. And what's nice is I'm basically painting behind. Now you can see I screwed up right here. So it's, and up here, it's outside the lines. So that's easy enough to fix. I can grab my eraser by pressing the letter E and I can just erase it and then I can be more careful if I want to. So maybe I'll do this one. And because we have the symmetry still on, it is coloring in the whole mandala at a time, which is great because maybe I'm not in the mood to color the whole thing manually. But if you are, you could do that as well by just turning off the symmetry option. Or you could print it and then just like old school color it in with pencils, crayons, markers, like whatever you want, right? So look at that. That's so pretty. Maybe I'll grab, I have another different blue swatch up here. So maybe we'll come in and like, let's do some of this. So you could, if you wanted to, you could separate each of the colors that you use on a different layer. Maybe we'll do that just for kicks. So I'll make another new layer here. And that really just makes it easy if you decide later that you want to just wipe out all of one color. It's just an easy way to do it. And you can see when I'm looking here, I've got like little, this is so, I just hate this part. Let me get, I'm going to switch back to the mandala layer and go back to my brush and back to black paint and clean this up. Oh, and some of it's just that I have a dirty screen and I'm looking at this and seeing like marks, and it's just because, I don't know, I've got smudges or something on my screen. That is so funny. Anyway, I'm going to this is killing me. What is this? I don't know. Let's fix it again. All right. So anyway, my point is, look how editable this is. See, you guys, I made it ugly on purpose so I could try and make it better on camera with you. It was all part of my plan. Oh my gosh, I might be making it worse. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to put a little ball here. That's not bad. Okay, so now we can go back, and if we want to maybe do another color, I can click and make another new layer, and maybe we'll paint this in. What just happened to my... Oh, you know what? Oh, here's a good lesson. This I painted with white. I didn't erase it. So look at what's happening. If I grab the yellow on top, look at that. So that's not how you want to do it. So I guess that is an example of where you would be better off doing that with the eraser instead of white paint. I forgot about that. So I'm going to come in here, and if I erase now, we can now see, now I've got holes that I can paint in. Does that make sense? So let me go back and maybe I can show you this. So here you see before, instead of erasing a hole through the black, I actually painted with white paint. So I forgot that would get us in trouble later. So pro tip, use the eraser, not white paint, if you think you might want to color this in later. So we'll put this back. I'm going to go back to this layer now and grab my eraser, and let me get just a normal round one. There we go. So now I'm not painting. What I'm doing is erasing the white paint very badly. And now we have a hole here that I can now paint on this layer and it will show up. And now we can see where I failed to erase all of it. There we go. So yeah, that's good. I'm glad I ran into that because I totally forgot about that being a thing. Okay, so you get the idea, right? Let's pop into the chat and see what people are saying or what questions we have. Can you use the paint bucket to fill the sections? Susie is asking. Oops. There we go. Susie, yes, you can use the paint bucket, but it will not symmetrically fill in everything at once. So if you use the paint bucket, you have to work your way around the mandala and use it 8 times for every little thing you want to fill in. So if that works for you, you can do that. If you're in a hurry and you don't want to work that way and you want the color to be symmetrical, then you would want to use the brush to be able to paint it in. So hopefully that answers your questions. Cayuse, that's a fun name. I hope I'm saying it right. Cayuse says, I was multitasking, I might have missed it, but can you do the symmetry options in Illustrator so these would be vector? Yeah, if you want to create a vector mandala, you would want to work in Illustrator. The symmetry options in Photoshop are limited to the brush tool. So it will not work if you are drawing with Photoshop's pen tool or any of the shapes or anything like that. Then you'd want to be an Illustrator if you want it to be vector. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer, but that's what Illustrator's for, right? So try to see it as a opportunity, I guess. And Nita says, I don't know if Illustrator has mandala symmetry. That is a good question. I don't know either. Interesting. I guess we'll all have to Google it. I would think so, but maybe not. And then Erin is saying, could you use a layer mask on the mandala layer and still paint without having to use the eraser? Yes, Erin, thank you. Yes, you could do that, of course. So I could have done that, but I would still have to paint over it. So I still have to paint the layer mask in. But you know what I could have done? I could have selected all those bits with like the magic wand to select them. And then I could have made the layer mask and then I wouldn't have to be like trying to trace it. So yeah, that is a good option. Probably would have been cleaner. So good point. What else? Those are such great questions and good comments and things. So I like it. Let's see. Let's go back. Look at me remembering to switch back to my desktop and not even getting to use my shortcut button. And I'm getting better slowly as we do all this. What else was I going to show you? So textures. And I forgot to like load any, so I'm just going to borrow from the one I have here. So I'm just going to grab this background layer and I'm just going to move it into this scene. Oh, wow. This was resized. So pretend that this fits. And look at that. It's not letting me transform the layer as long as my symmetry is active. So that's an interesting thing I've never run into before. So I'm going to go back to my brush tool and I'm going to turn symmetry off for a second because apparently I had to do that. So let's just pretend that this was high res and it fits because in normal life that would work. But this, yeah, maybe we'll do it like this way. So let's pretend that this was a high res texture and it would be. This is a document that I forgot I had sized for web and so it's small. But anyway, I'm going to grab this texture now and drag it below everything and it just kind of lives there. And that might look great. Maybe I want to take my mandala and all of my color layers, I guess. And if I press Command or Control T, I could rotate them. I kind of like it this way, actually. So we can do that because we're not drawing this on paper. So we're not doing this, I guess, by hand. So we can do all kinds of different things. If we wanted to paint over these lines, or affect them, there's a lot of different ways we can do that. So for one thing, if I suddenly was like, I wish that all my mandala line work was white, we can make sure that the mandala line work layer is active. And if we come down and click the effects menu and we add a color overlay, and let's say we choose white, and we need to make sure the opacity is 100%, and the blend mode would need to be something like normal, then we can have white line work just like that. Or of course, any color. We could have a really, oh my God, that's awful. What would be good here with blue? Like a deep orange or I don't know, red? Ooh. Ooh, I don't know. That could be fun, right? So you can change the color of your line work by just adding a color overlay. So that was just the effects button down here. And then you just choose color overlay. And you want to make sure that you change the blend mode to normal because otherwise, if it's on something like multiply, it's not going to show up. And then it's really easy to change that at any time by just double clicking in the layers panel where we see we've got an effect now. We can just double click and then we can click right here and we can change this to whatever we want it to be. Maybe we want, ooh, purple. Ooh, I am liking that. Okay. So it's really easy. So that's one way to recolor your line work. Another idea, now we're in the inspiration and ideas part, we can add a new blank layer on top. And let me pick this nice purple that we had. And I'm going to go back to my brushes. And one of Kyle's brushes, so again, free if you have Creative Cloud, one of his spatter brushes is called Beautiful Mess. And so I'm going to search for it because I never remember which. He's like so prolific with his brushes, you guys. There are thousands, I don't know, hundreds at the very least, like probably close to 1,000. There's so many, and I never know where they are. And did you realize you can search at the top of the brush panel? Yes, you can. So I just typed in mess, and then here it pulled up. It's from his spatter brush collection, and it's called Beautiful Mess. So I'm going to double click it, which selects it, makes it active, and then it also closes the panel. And then I'm just going to come in here and paint just all over the place. You can see, isn't it cool? Look at this brush. It's very neat. I like how this brush looks, and if we go over it, it's going to get darker, and it's just really neat. But this doesn't look good, right? So here's where we can clip this mess to the brush line work layer. And hopefully it will show up still. It's dark, so it kind of matches with the black. I probably should have used, should we use a different color? Let's do that so you can see it better. Let's do this mustard color. So now I'm just going to paint over this. But the brush mode is set to multiply, which means it's not going to show up on the black. So I'm going to change this to normal, which won't have quite the same effect, but if we want to cover the black lines, we need to change that blend mode. I'm glad I caught that too. So different brushes have different blend modes programmed into them, and you can always change them, and it may, affect the way the brush kind of works, but that's okay, hopefully. So this looks nice. Let's put another color on top of it just to really, and we'll put this one maybe in multiply mode so you can see. I mean, ooh, so interesting, right? Okay, it's debatable how pretty that is or not. But the point is we can see it. And now we're going to clip it to the mandala line work. No, we're not, because I painted right over it. What? Were you guys telling me that in the... Look what I did. Because I deleted the layer. You guys, I'm making all the classic mistakes so you don't have to. Don't paint directly on the mandala layer. Okay. You want to paint on a new layer, which I had, but then when I deleted it, I didn't make a new one. All right, so this one's kind of working now. In multiply mode, the pink holds up. Okay, so the point is we have this messy painty layer, and it is separate than the mandala line work. Let's rename this. So I'm going to double click and we'll just call it line work and press enter. All right, so this is now covering up the line work. And if we want this fun layer to become the line work, we need to clip it. So it's kind of like we're going to shrink wrap it down onto the mandala line work layer. And we do that, the easy way is to hold down the Alt or Option key, and then you hover in between those two layers. And you see this cursor? I can't enlarge it, I don't think. Nope, I can't enlarge it to show you, but I call it the Gonzo cursor. It kind of looks like Gonzo from the Muppets. It's got a square and then it has like Gonzo nose, a little arrow pointing down. So when you see the Gonzo cursor, then you click in between the paint layer and the mandala, I don't know why I can't say that today, mandala line work layer, and it clips them. So it's kind of, it like shrink wraps it. It makes it show up only where the mandala line work layer is. And then we can recolor our artwork actually just like on the fly, however we want. So got to be on the right layer. Dang it. If I want to recolor this a little bit more, ooh, there we go. If I want to maybe add some more color to this, just make sure you're on the right layer. And now I can come in here and look at that. I can add all this yummy texture to my mandala. Oh, I am kind of really liking this. You see that? So that whole mess is happening on this layer. If we want to shrink wrap it, then we hold down Option or Alt and we get the Gonzo again, but this time with a slash through his nose. He's got a piercing, I guess. And if we do that, it will unclip, and then we can see our mess, and maybe we want to put in a different one or something, or move it around or whatever. But if we want to clip it, we hold down Alt or Option, we get the Gonzo, and then we can still move it around even. Gosh, do I have, I keep being on the wrong layers. Make sure you're on the right one, and you can even like reposition it within the space here. So many options, so cool. Let's see what other questions you guys have in the chat. Marilyn says she doesn't use swatch. Could we go over that part? So let's do that real quick. I go back to my desktop so you can see. Okay, swatch. So when you say you don't use swatch, I assume you mean like the swatches panel. So you can get your swatches panel from the window menu. So window and then swatches. And that will pop open and you will see a bunch of folders here. And if you twirl them open, there's a lot of like really ugly colors in there. The pastels are pretty, etc. So you can go down and there's some like preset colors, but of course you can make your own colors too, and you can add them here. So one way to do that, I never do it from here. I do it from over here on the toolbar. So if I click on my foreground swatch, and let's just say I want to add this like, I don't know, seafoam green color. Once I select it, I can then just choose add to swatches. And then I can give it a name like seafoam. And if I'm done here, I'll just cancel that. But don't cancel it. Let's do this again. Okay, I'm going to just click. We can add to swatches. I'm going to click OK. And then I'll show you another way, which is once you have that color active, you can come over here and then say new swatch preset. And let's see where it puts it. There. Oh, it was here. So now I have two of them here. So it added it to pastel for some reason. I don't know why it did that. I don't know why it did that. Normally it would have added it at the bottom. So I'm not sure why it showed up there. That's a little tricky because I didn't know where to look for it, but it's here. So you can add swatches like that. And then to use them, you just click on them and you'll see whatever I click on becomes my active foreground color. And then at the top, we see a bunch of colors that I've used recently. So it makes it really easy to go back and forth. So hopefully that answers your question, Marilyn, or Mary Ann. I'm sorry. Have I been saying your name wrong this whole time? Mary Ann. Oh, there was a different Marilyn. Okay. So I'm not losing my mind. Marianne, got it. Nita says, I wish Procreate Brush Library had the search option, right? It is bonkers, especially because Procreate brushes are so popular and, you know, people make them and sell them and all of that, and people collect a lot of brushes. It is nice to be able to search. Brad says, Gonzo cursor for the win, right? What else? What would you guys call that cursor? I just look at it and I'm like, it's Gonzo. Oh, David is here. David, Muppet Gonzo cursor. I'll never see that the same again. Right? Oh, I love that. I'm glad that you find that fun too. Beth says, please recommend a source for textures. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So first of all, textures are super easy to just create your own, right? With your camera, phone, whatever. You can take pictures of anything can become a texture. But I never think of that in the moment, or very rarely anyway. So my favorite source is I just go to Adobe Stock. And do you guys know this? Adobe Stocks got a free collection. And I don't know that I'm all logged in right now to show you, but let's see. Let me go back to my desktop and we'll see. Hopefully. Oh, I've got stuff. Hold on. I'm going to pull it up and then I'll bring it over. Oh, I am logged in. Okay. Yeah, you guys can see this now, right? So once you get logged in, you just go to stock.adobe.com. You can see, oh, I'm not logged in. Oh my gosh, this is, okay. Do my device. This is why you want to have this stuff preloaded. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember the app. Isn't this fun? And it's not an Adobe app that you have to use to do this. It's like Authenticator or something. But that's not. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, anyway. I wish they would remind you what the name of the app is. I never find it. I just, when I get lucky, it pops up on my watch and then it's really easy to do. Okay. Fail, totally fail. Let me pop up, hold on. Let me pop up Safari. Oh. And we'll move this over here, stock.adobe.com, because I think I should be logged in. Right? Okay, now I'm logged in. Woo! Okay, so what you do is you go to Adobe, stock.adobe.com, and you come down here and you click free. And then you can search for anything, like you could just type the word texture, but you could also search for whatever texture you're looking for. So maybe it's tree bark, or maybe it's paint, or maybe it's, you know, wrinkled paper or whatever. So all of these search results are free for Creative Cloud subscribers. If you are not a Creative Cloud subscriber, I'll show you another option in a minute. But anyway, the point is, oh my God, look at this. Delicious, right? So when I mouse over it, you'll see it says license. So I just click license and then it's going to download. Bloop. Look, there it went. And then I can open it up and throw it in. Okay, but if you're not a Creative Cloud subscriber, of course, another option is unsplash.com. And here you could just search again for texture. And if you want to come, Unsplash has mostly free stuff, but they do have some paid stuff. So here, if you just want free, you can come to this little filter menu and choose free. And then, you know, there's loads of textures here too. And they're great. And you could scroll forever. So anyway, that is how that works. Aren't you glad we went on that little adventure? All right, you guys, any other dying last minute questions? Meredith says that I probably had the pastel group selected when I added that swatch. That's probably what happened. And it happens, she says, it happens with gradients too. Deborah says, incredible presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. And thank you, everybody who's here. I love doing these live things. And, I never know who will show up, if we'll have like 2 people or 200 or who knows. But it's so fun to see everybody here. So I love it. Thank you. Meredith Images says that Procreate's adding the ability to search in an upcoming update. So that is cool. And Meredith Images says she gives away 3 textures every Sunday on her blog. So look her up and check out her textures. That is great. Be One of the Many says, I'm learning a lot and appreciate your humor. It's weird, but seeing the mistakes are the best teaching tool because I remember them. Hey, it's all part of my plan, right? To just, remind you that we're all human and we all make those mistakes. And that's the thing with lives, I love a good, like, tightly edited tutorial video myself. But in those tightly edited tutorial videos, you often cut out like the fumbly bits, right? Where you make a mistake or you click the wrong thing. Not so much because we want to create the illusion that we don't make mistakes, but I just don't want to make people watch all of that. And sometimes it can be confusing, right? Because if I make a mistake and then I have to backtrack, sometimes that can confuse the learners. So we don't get that luxury in a live. So I guess the good thing is, hopefully my mistakes didn't confuse you. Hopefully they reminded you that that's the reality, right? We all make those mistakes and we're all human, and hopefully that inspires you and boosts your confidence too, right? Because that's important too. So this is so fun. Thank you guys, as always, for joining me. We try to do these lives, I think it's the 3rd Thursday of every month and at this time. So I encourage you to subscribe. And I always try to send out an email blast too, and CreativePro sends out an email blast. So, get signed up, click the bell notify thing, and then you'll be reminded and you can come join us and we can have some more fun next time. And let me know in the comments what else you would like to see me cover in these live sessions. Because, I work in Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign very comfortably in all 3 of those. And so I'm happy to dive into whatever it is you think that I might be able to help you with. So thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate you as always, and I hope to see you next time. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week.